Um, although I'm still having trouble trying to work out the anatomy of your head.
No, see, this is the back of the head, right? So you get the hair cut, like, do you understand? This is just the back, it's not like the front of the head.
Oh, right, so you have the hair shaved. Right, I see, so they shave the parts that are the face and leave the beard parts at the back of your head, right?
Exactly. You see, like, look at the ears, they're backwards on the picture. Because the front of the head is facing, the other way.
Well, I hope your employers accept it,
Well, I just have to make sure they never see the back of my head, because the front of my head still looks normal.
Ask for the verse number and the surah number, but let's just assume that what you just said is in the Quran, okay? For reference, if you have any other questions and you're reading the Quran, just please note down the verse number or anything of that sort. Mark 7, if you do have it, that would be great. But that is something that I would find in the Quran. That's correct. That it is better to friend with believers than unbelievers. And why? Lizard King, don't you agree that your friends and peers are affected by you and vice versa? In fact, if I want to look at anyone's personality, I would tell what kind of person he is by the people he hangs out with. Don't you agree? That's correct. So, since Islam is about submitting to God and about submitting to God in anything you do, while talking to your friend, whether socializing with your parents, whether eating, okay, whether anything, with being a politician, whether being an administrator, whether being a teacher, a doctor, whether being a wife, being a good brother, being a good sister, anything that you do must coincide with being a submitter. So, since there's a lot of effect on you, depending on who you hang out with, it's better to have friends of believers than disbelievers. I mean, you could read a lot of psychological effects, sociological effects of how friends affect the people, how peers have peer pressure on the person to do something that they might not want to do. But if you have a conscious group of friends that know who you are and that know what's your goal, guess what? They will get you in line if anything happens. And that is why Muhammad, peace upon him, said, the believer is the mirror of another believer. What does that mean? That means if Colonel, for example, and me are hanging out here, and he sees me doing something wrong, he's going to correct me. He's going to say, dude, O'Day, we don't do that. That's why it's important for believers to come together, right?
There's a steel company that does work in Tel Aviv. Ramlak might know the name of the company. They actually designed even that same pipeline that was going, that holds the cables for the internet. Sabik, yes, Sabik. Yeah, Sabik, that's the name of it, exactly. You should look that up. And they're actually working on many other things like carbon fiber things and stuff like that. But anyways, I'm going to let Farhan go because I think he was putting his hand up so he could talk.
Okay, I was going to say a couple of things. Aim, I partially agree with you, partially don't. Same with Ptolemy. Partially agree with you, partially don't. I don't think that the problems of the Middle East countries are really the I mean, I think the West is partially to blame, But I think when it comes to their mentality, that's their own fault, because like they can fix themselves. We can't blame, like us Muslims, we can't blame others for problems like that affect us. We have to blame ourselves first and foremost. But like I do think that at the same time, and I know Tom, you're going to disagree with me on this, but I do think that a lot of Western America, actually not Western America in particular, does kick out or find some reason to attack Muslim countries when they start to implement Sharia and these type of things, even when it's supported by the masses. For example, recently, like in Somalia, and actually there's two sides of the story, but I'll present this one part. Well, I mean, I know you disagree, but let me explain where I'm coming from. In Somalia at the time, this is like earlier last year, there was a lot of lawlessness and people were killing each other and these type of things, and it was complete chaos, right? The Islamic courts system came up and they basically filled the void where there was no law and order, and they did a good job, and people actually supported them, and the economy was doing really well. Because if you look at like what Adam Smith said, you need a couple of things for the economy to grow well. One of them was law and order and justice and all that kind of stuff. So they actually did establish law and order in their area. The thing is, America supported Ethiopia's attack of Somalia, which I don't think was right, because the people liked them. They liked the Islamic courts. They welcomed them in, and they brought peace and prosperity and these type of things. And so that's just one example. I don't believe that America's at war with Islam, but I think that I can see why someone would think that, because there are a lot of cases where there's like a popularly supported Muslim government, and we find a reason to come in and kick them out. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, that's how I would put it. Actually, the way Farhan put it, that's what actually I mostly. Actually, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm just gonna call him K because it's so much easier. I agree with what K said to a larger extent. I think I would characterize it more so than that. And I mean, of course, I don't agree with Sharia law, but that doesn't mean I don't agree with any religious law for that matter. I think I don't like any of them, but I wouldn't say I particularly would invade a country because I disagree with Sharia law. And as I said, I wouldn't invade Saudi Arabia particularly because I don't think they're oppressing their people to, like, for example, let's say, we all know that Saddam Hussein, I'm not saying that was an excuse for invading Iraq, but, a right excuse, but I'm saying Saddam Hussein was a pretty bad guy. I mean, he kind of, gassed people and killed people. So yeah, they're not to the degree of him or like Mao, but I still don't like the government and what they do. Oh my god, I've got to go get dressed up because I've got to work at the sushi place illegally in about 30 minutes. So I'm just gonna leave you all. No, Sharia law will never replace the United States Constitution in 50 years. What you don't understand is, I mean, I don't know how much drugs you have to take to think that. But first of all, the West is becoming less and less religious and much less religious. Second of all, the center of the United States, one of the biggest and most important things to the United States here, to the United States mentality, to the United States people, and to the United States culture, is separation of church and state. That is one of America. One of the single and central things is a secular government, no religious laws. Sharia law, I don't know what will say this, it's ridiculous, will never ever take over Europe, it will never take over America, it will never take over Canada.
Never say never.
Starting to take over in the UK.
Yeah.
They're gonna have Sharia law. Excuse me, there's a difference between allowing Sharia law for like a marriage dispute or something like that, and between implementing it and replacing the United States Constitution or the British Constitution. AIM just said that it's going to replace the United States Constitution, and that's never going to happen. I mean, besides the fact that, let's see, Japan, I mean, Asia is becoming, in general, China's, let's see, not religious Japan's largely not religious, and Europe's largely not religious, and America's becoming less and less religious, as well as Canada.